So to finish up my Fun with Hitler videos, there's a couple subjects that I want to cover. There's the abdication of Wilhelm II, and then there's the rise of Frederick Ebert, and then there's the power of the spoken word. Hitler believed that the power of the spoken word was very strong. And also a little bit more about Henry Ford. Okay. So there's Adolf Hitler. He is found guilty of taking part in the Beer Hall Putsch in 1923. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He was sent to Lansdowne Castle in Munich to serve his prison sentence. He was treated well and was allowed to walk in the castle grounds, wear his own clothes, and receive gifts. Officially, there were restrictions on visitors, but this didn't apply to Hitler, and he had a steady flow of friends, party members, journalists who spent long spells with him. While in Lengsburg history, he read a lot of books. Most of these dealt with German history and political philosophy. Later, Hitler was to describe his spell in prison as a free education at the state's expense. One writer who influenced Adolf Hitler while in prison was Henry Ford, the American car manufacturer. Adolf Hitler read Ford's autobiography, My Life and Work, and a book of his called The International Jew. In the latter, Henry Ford claimed that there is a Jewish conspiracy to take over the world. Henry Ford argued the Jew is a race that has no civilization to point to, no aspiring religion, no great achievements in any realm. We meet the Jew everywhere where there is no power, and that is where the Jew so habitually gravitate to the high places. Who puts him there? What does he do there? In any country where the Jewish question comes to the forefront as a vital issue, you will discover that the principal cause is the outworking of the Jewish genius to achieve the power of control. Here in the United States is the fact that this remarkable minority attaining in 50 years a degree of control that would be impossible to attain times larger group of any other race. The finances of the world are in control of the Jews. Their decisions and devices are themselves our economic laws. Both Adolf Hitler and Henry Ford believed in the existence of a Jewish conspiracy, that the Jews had a plan to destroy the Gentile world and take it over through the power of an international supergovernment. This sort of plan had been described in detail in the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion that has been published in Russia in 1903. It's believed that the man behind the forgery was Pyotr Ivanovich Rakovsky, the head of the Paris section of Okhrana. Okay. So that's Henry Ford, right? The big fucking American military car company. Ford, you know, there's lots of Ford Tauruses, Ford F-150s, F-10s, F-150s, what's the S-10 for the Ford? The Rangers, Ford Rangers. A lot of Ford, right? Ford plant in Georgetown. World War I, the causes for World War I. On July 28th, the Austro-Hungarians fired the first shots in preparation for the invasion of Serbia. As Russia mobilized, Germany invaded neutral Belgium and Luxembourg before moving towards France, leading Britain to declare war on Germany. After the German march on Paris was brought to a halt, what became known as the Western Front settled into a battle of attrition with a trench line that would change little until 1917. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, the Russian army was successful against the Austro-Hungarians, but was stopped in its invasion of East Prussia by the Germans. In November 1914, the Ottoman Empire joined the war, opening fronts in the Caucasus, Mesopotamia, and the Sinai. Italy and Bulgaria went to war in 1915 and Romania in 1916. The war approached a resolution after the Russian government collapsed in March 1917, and a subsequent revolution in November brought the Russians to terms with the Central Powers. After a 1918 German offensive along the Western Front, the Allies drove back the Germans in a series of successful offensives, and American forces began entering the trenches. Germany, which had its own trouble with revolutionaries, agreed to an armistice on November 11, 1918, ending the war in victory for the Allies. By the end of the war, four major imperial powers, German, Russian, Austro-Hungarian, and Ottoman empires ceased to exist. So the end of World War I brought the end of four fucking empires: the German Empire, Russian Empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire, Ottoman Empire. The successor states of the former two lost substantial territory. And this is the Bolsheviks. That was Russia. The Russian Empire fell down because Lenin and Trotsky and Stalin came to power. So, and then there's a big Red Scare in America right after that too. So, and that was the rise of J. Edgar Hoover. So the successor states of the former two lost substantial territory, while the latter two were dismantled. The map of Europe was redrawn, with several independent nations restored or created. The League of Nations formed with the aim of preventing any repetition of such appalling conflict. The aim failed, with weakened states, renewed European nationalism, and the German feeling of humiliation, contributing to the rise of fascism and the conditions for World War II. So the abdication and the flight of Wilhelm, the Great Betrayal. As Hitler says, Wilhelm was at the Imperial Army headquarters in Spa, Belgium, when the uprisings in Berlin and other centers took him by surprise in late 1918. Mutiny among the ranks of his beloved Kaiserliche Marine, the Imperial Navy, profoundly shocked him. After the outbreak of the German Revolution, Wilhelm could not make up his mind whether or not to abdicate. Up to that point, he accepted that he would likely have to give up the imperial crown, but still hoped to retain the Prussian kingship. The unreality of this belief was revealed to him when, in hope of preserving the monarchy in face of growing revolutionary unrest, Chancellor Prince Max of Baden announced Wilhelm's abdication of both titles on November 9, 1918. Prince Max himself was forced to resign later the same day when it became clear that only Friedrich Ebert, the leader of the SPD, could effectively exert control. This is Friedrich Ebert, and it would be the Social Democrat Party. Wilhelm consented to the abdication only after Ludendorff's replacement, General Wilhelm Groener, had informed him that the officers and men of the army would march back in good order under Paul von Hindenburg's command, but would certainly not fight for Wilhelm's throne on the home front. The monarchy's last and strongest support had been broken, and finally even Hindenburg himself, a lifelong royalist, was obliged with some embarrassment to advise the emperor to give up the crown. The fact that the high command might one day abandon the Kaiser had been foreseen in December 1897 when Wilhelm had visited Otto von Bismarck, father of Germany, for the last time. Otto von Bismarck had again warned the Kaiser about the increasing influence of militarists, especially of the admirals who were pushing for the construction of a battle fleet. Otto von Bismarck's last warning had been, "Your Majesty, so long as you have this present officer corps, you can do as you please, but when this is no longer the case, it would be very different for you." Subsequently, Otto von Bismarck had predicted accurately. Jena came 20 years after the death of Frederick the Great. The crash will come 20 years after my departure if things go on like this. A prophecy fulfilled almost to the month. So, Otto von Bismarck, the Second Reich of German history, was had predicted the fall of the German Empire as he had saw it. Otto von Bismarck was anti-Catholic. He had established Social Security and a lot of social reforms in order to stop communism and socialism. So basically he brought about the first nation state, one of the first nation states to Germany. He formed all the 39 countries into one nation. He would be the Second Reich. The First Reich was the Holy Roman Empire, which Voltaire, I think, said that was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. But it lasted for about 1,000 years. So some people, 1871 is when the modern Germany was formed, but there was a German confederation, a group of controlling people out of Germany for a long-ass time called the Holy Roman Empire. It was a multi-ethnic complex of territories in Central Europe that lasted from the coronation of Otto I as emperor in 1962 until Francis II dissolved the imperial title in 1806. So from 1962 to 1806, so about 900 years, 900 years. The largest territory and core of the empire was the Kingdom of Germany, and at its peak, the empire included the Kingdom of Italy, the Kingdom of Bohemia, and the Kingdom of Burgundy. The office of Holy Roman Emperor was traditionally elective through frequent control by dynasties. The German prince-electors, who were the highest-ranking noblemen of the empire, usually elected one of their peers as King of the Romans, after which he'd be crowned emperor by the Pope. So they would elect, the German prince-electors would have elected fucking king, and then he would be crowned emperor by the Pope, right? The Pope says you could be the emperor of the world. Tradition of papal coronations were discontinued in the 16th century. The empire grew out of East Francia, primary division of the Frankish Empire, and explicitly proclaimed itself the continuation of the Western Roman Empire under the doctrine of translatio imperiali, transfer of rule. Succession of singular rulers vested with supreme power. Frankish king Charlemagne was crowned as emperor by Pope Leo III in 800, restoring the title in the West after more than 3 centuries. The title was passed to a desultory manner during the decline and fragmentation of the Carolingian dynasties. So that's the Holy Roman Empire. That's the First Reich. Second Reich's Otto von Bismarck, and then the Third Reich is Adolf Hitler. So once Wilhelm abdicates, you get Germany is now, okay, so Otto von Bismarck creates modern Germany, and then after World War I, you got the modern Republic of Germany, okay, so it's not an empire no more, now it's a democratic republic. And it's not a monarchy, so the monarchy is no more. Friedrich Ebert was a German politician of the Social Democratic Party of Germany and the first president of Germany from 1919 till his death in office 1925. So for 6 years, Friedrich Ebert was the president of Germany. Friedrich Ebert was elected president of the SPD on the death of August Bebel, and the SPD later became deeply divided because Ebert led it to support war loans for World War I. A moderate social democrat, Ebert was in favor of the Burgfrieden, in which domestic political squabbles were put aside and all forces in society were expected to support the war effort. He tried to isolate those in the party opposed to the war, but could not prevent a split. Ebert was a pivotal figure in the German Revolution and Civil War of 1918 to 1919. When Germany became a republic, he was its first chancellor. His policies at that time were primarily aimed at restoring peace and order and containing the more extreme elements of the revolutionary left. For this, he allied himself with conservative and nationalistic political forces, and particularly with the leadership of the military under General Wilhelm Groener and the right-wing Frank Corps. With their help, Ebert's government crushed a number of leftist uprisings that were pursuing goals that were not only those of the SPD. This made him a controversial historical figure. So Hitler comes out of these conditions. You know, you had the abdication of the throne, so the German revolutionaries were able to get the emperor to step down. The Russian revolutionaries were able to get them to step down. So you had 4 empires that were dissolved after World War I. So the world wars were a good way of having empires, you know, dissolution of, let's see what they had, like Austro-Hungary and some of the other ones, right? So the dissolution of Austria-Hungary is a constitutional monarchic unit more known as the kingdoms and lands represented in the Imperial Council, lands of the Holy Hungarian Crown of St. Stephen, following the end of World War I. So the Russian Empire, the German Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and some other empire. There's 4 empires, right? So the Russian Empire, excuse me, and the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire, Russian Empire, German Empire, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. 4 empires were dissolved after World War I, and that was the great betrayal when the Kaiser Wilhelm had abdicated. That really hurt Hitler's heart. He was a little fucking bitch courier just passing messages along in the army, right? And then there's a bomb, he's blind. Oh, I can't see, I can't see. So he's not really even a powerful soldier, but he was good at, like, he was smart, right? So he was able to mobilize this entire fucking war machine, use propaganda. The spoken word is what he thought was the best way to propagandize the masses, through fanaticism and to make, you know, people have an emotional appeal. So people have an emotional, visceral reaction to his words instead of using logic and reason. So that's Adolf Hitler, right? Adolf Hitler was able to use the spoken word, the power of propaganda, the spoken word, nationalist, socialist Germany. Period of National Socialism in Germany had a perfect example, which the power of the spoken word, propaganda, and powerful forces of indoctrination had been successfully and tactically used to achieve full loyalty by the German masses. Nowhere in modern history has the effect that these methods created in Nazi Germany had been proved more efficient. The incomparable success achieved by the National Socialist German Workers' Party had been unparalleled in modern history and has been the basis for major political movements. Different methods to enhance the power of the spoken word have been utilized, blah, blah, blah. So I guess I'm just going to end it off by reading some of the chapter on the significance of the spoken word, Volume 2, Chapter 6, The Struggle of the Earlier Period, the significance of the spoken word. The echoes of our first great meeting, this is Mein Kampf. The echoes of the first great meeting in the banquet hall of the Hofbräuhaus on February 24th, 1920 had not yet died away when we began preparations for our next meeting. Up to that time, we had to consider carefully the venture of holding a small meeting every month or at most every fortnight in a city like Munich, but now it was decided that we should hold a mass meeting every week. I need not say that we anxiously asked ourselves on each occasion, again and again, will the people come and will they listen? Personally, I was firmly convinced that if once they came, they would remain and listen. During that period, the Hall of Hofbräuhaus in Munich acquired for us, National Socialists, a sort of mystic significance. Every week there was a meeting, almost always in that hall, and each time the hall was better filled than on the former occasion, and our public more attentive. Starting with the theme responsibility for the war, which nobody at that time cared about, and then passing on la-di-da-di-da, my struggle, Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler. Fuck fascism. Fuck totalitarian societies. Fuck authority. Fuck authoritarianism, autocracy. Fuck monarchy. Question authority. Fuck Adolf Hitler. Fuck fascism.